Thank you, Fawn. Welcome everybody. My name is Julie O'Halloran. I am a Senior Development Horticulturalist with the Queensland Department of Agriculture and Fisheries based at Gatton in the Lockyer Valley. I've been involved in extension and development in the vegetable industry for the last 8 years, and prior to that in the cotton industry. I'm passionate about extension and development and the role it plays in assisting and supporting farmers to achieve change in the way they do things. The most rewarding aspect of this role is seeing growers achieve change that is beyond what they might even have envisaged for themselves. Fung outlined the process that we've been through so far to identify the 2 key export strategies, and I will now talk you through what they were. The gap analysis identified that growers who are interested in becoming export ready can find it very difficult to access information on what they need to actually successfully export. Information is scattered amongst numerous sources, and some information is just not available anywhere, and it's only once they become involved in that process that they can actually find a way and find out the information that they need. That can actually set up roadblocks, and then people end up becoming disengaged from that export process. So from this, we developed the concept of a roadmap for exporters, and that involved a single depository of information related to export. By doing this, we were hoping to facilitate more growers becoming export ready and successfully exporting Australian produce. The components of this roadmap for exporters would include an overarching process framework or flowchart that directs growers through what they need to consider at every stage of the export process. This would then link to a range of other areas associated with exporting that were also identified through the gap analysis process. An export-ready checklist outlining what growers will need to have considered in terms of their business's ability to export is the first step in that process. There will also need to be considerations around freight and logistics. What are the options, the routes to actually get your product into overseas markets? There will be packaging and pallet configuration options. Packaging requirements are likely to be very different from what we have in Australia, and in fact there may be a preference for no packaging at all, just bulk being supply of product. These requirements can also vary for different products, and in terms of pallet configurations, different planes, different freight options will have many different options for pallet configurations that growers will have to consider and take into planning their export. Destination countries are likely to have very different requirements in terms of the necessary certification for exporters to actually access their markets. Similarly, there may be individual product requirements for getting different products into overseas markets. There are also going to be phytosanitary requirements and compliance that is necessary, and it's necessary to understand what's going to be required, A, to meet Australian standards in getting product out of the country, but also what's going to be required by your destination markets. The second strategy option that we explored was an Australian Exporters app. This was based on an identified need that there was a mechanism required to facilitate importers sourcing Australian produce, but also to promote export-ready growers overseas. This app would contain individual grower profiles of export-ready growers that contain information about what sort of crops they grew, their location, the seasonality of that produce, as well as key facts about what made their product stand out from other growers' produce. It would have a language selection facility to account for overseas markets and importers that may not have English as a first language. And it would have a search capability based on some of those factors I mentioned before in the grower profiles, like crop type, seasonality, location, things like that. And obviously in today's world, it would need to be compatible with mobile devices, hence the app idea. Once we had identified these 2 strategy options, we went through a process of concept proofing. This considered the results of the SWOT analysis, but also involved consultation with a range of stakeholders. This included key export-ready growers who are already exporting and from various locations around Australia. In addition to those growers, we made contact with representatives from Austrade, Queensland Department of Agriculture and Fisheries, Trade Investment Queensland, Horticulture Innovation Australia, AusVeg, and the Australian Horticultural Exporters Association. So based on the feedback during this concept proofing phase, the Exporter app was selected as the option to focus on for the project. I will now hand over to Andrew to take you through what that app might look like.